Hello everyone. You don't have to watch this video. I'm not even sure I'd suggest that you do watch it, but if you want to know a little bit about me, I suppose it's only fair since I've asked you to post about yourselves. So as it says on the syllabus and multiple other places, my name's Burke Miller. You can call me Burke, Professor Miller, Professor, whatever makes you most comfortable, but I usually go by Burke. I use the first name more because I think of us as being in this together rather than being in it separately, but do what feels good and right for you. I moved a lot when I was younger. I was born in Columbus, Ohio, but only lived there like 6 months before moving to Tallahassee, Florida, which most people in Florida don't think is part of their state, but lived there for 4 or 5 years, moved to Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and then moved to Winston-Salem, North Carolina, where I lived from second grade through college. And I went to college in the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, where I lived for 4 years. I then taught in Thomasville, North Carolina for 6 years, taught high school, and then moved to Oxford, Ohio, went to graduate school, taught high school in Hamilton for a while, and then moved to NKU. So I moved a lot when I was younger, been in a bunch of different places. This is me. Already you can see hard at work. The picture on the right is some birthday, that's my mom, but the guy you should notice is the one in the back. I'm named for him. That was my great-grandfather, and I also inherited his hairstyle. So this is my kind of nerdy high school career, I guess. I would say it's not quite as bad as it looks, but who knows. You can see the picture there and see if you can figure out which one I am. Kind of difficult. They all have hair, don't they? It's my graduation from Chapel Hill in 1986, so that means old, yes. I've taught a bunch of things in high school and coached. U.S. history, I've taught every level. I taught the very lowest up through AP. One of the highlights of my first teaching career was I also coached basketball, and the last game I ever coached was the Division II North Carolina state championship game, which turned out to be a close game. We lost. Now I will say both our guards had ACL injuries and had been out most of the season. But more importantly, if you look at us on the left, we only had one player much taller than I was. The team on the right that beat us, every starter they had was taller than me. And not only were they taller, they were a lot more athletic. And we lost in a close game. That's okay. It was a good year. I really can't complain about anything. While coaching basketball, I did run into 2 people who would go on to later fame, both of them as football players, which I guess says something about my basketball coaching, right? Brad Hoover, who played for the Carolina Panthers, and there's a little bit about him. And Madison Hedgecock, who later won a Super Bowl with the New York Giants. That's him there with Eli Manning. After teaching in North Carolina, I taught for 4 years at Hamilton High School in Ohio. A highlight of that probably being the signing of No Child Left Behind. No teachers like No Child Left Behind, but it was pretty momentous in our history, and I was there at the signing. That desk where President Bush is sitting sat in a display case outside of my room for a couple years. I've been at NKU since 2005. They are the courses that I generally teach. If you're a music person, History and Music, 381 is a great course. It's usually offered every spring. It's online. If you're interested, check it out. Some of the things I do, they're my research interest. I'm trained in early American Republic. Since I've been here, I've spent a lot of time in modern pop culture. See some of my roles and my last book. So that's all the work crap. Here are some things about me if you're trying to get an idea of who I am. If you're a Myers-Briggs person, you'll know what INFJ is. If you aren't, you don't care. That's okay too. When I was young and brash like many of you, I used to do dumb things. I don't mean you do dumb things, but I did. And one of those was free climbing, mountain climbing without tying off. And twice I nearly accidentally ended it all while climbing, so be careful out there, folks. This is some of the stuff about me, some of the music I've been listening to recently, some movies, and some of my favorite books. But the real reason I get up each morning are for my children. The oldest is probably most famous for when she was much younger. We had tried everything to get her to use the potty, and I mean everything. And of course, if you have children, everyone has advice. And we finally were about to the point of giving up, and I looked at her and I said, what can we do to get you to go pee-pee on the potty? And this is her exact quote response. Needless to say, we've not gotten her to do much since, but I will say in her defense that she started using the potty shortly thereafter anyway. I also have identical twin girls who are 14 now. But you can see here from the picture, when they were 2.5, they were already nursing up. I've run across a few people in my lifetime that are famous. I guess Brad Hoover and Madison are sort of famous, but some of these other ones you may have heard of. When I was in college, I played at least one pickup game with Warren Martin, who was one of the crowd favorites of the 80s, sort of a cult figure. He started out not being very good and worked his way into the starting lineup by his senior year. Buzz Peterson, who was Michael Jordan's roommate, but you may know him if you're a basketball fan as Tennessee's former head coach. And Brad Daugherty, who was the #1 pick in the NBA draft and a long-time perennial all-star player who had back injuries and quit, who does NASCAR now if you're into racing. I did have a class with Michael Jordan and one with Sam Perkins. Jordan actually sat next to me in a social class, although I will say for about a third of the class it was his girlfriend, maybe one of his girlfriends, who was sitting next to me. Maybe it was more like half the course. I did shake hands with him at graduation and did get to get on the court with him one time. Any of you who are ESPN fans, you may know Stuart Scott, who passed away a couple months ago. Stuart sat next to me in AP American History when I was in high school, and I still remember our teacher saying, "Miller, Scott, you're in the danger zone." And I've never met any of these people, but I asked for testimonials, and several people sent some. The first was, of course, Britney Spears, who several years ago decided to try my daring look. Jake Gyllenhaal usually wears hair, but when he wants to feel, as he said, really badass, he shaves his head. And of course, Sean Connery, who took my look years and years ago. So maybe that didn't tell you exactly who I am, but it will give you some idea, and hopefully, if you are interested, understand a little bit more of where I'm coming from. Hope you've enjoyed it, and we have a great semester. Take care.